as we welcome you inside the MCI Center. Hi, everybody. I'm Dave Randorf. Our coverage really kicks into high gear this evening. 3 hours of coverage in prime time for you this evening on TSN, and we promise we'll do our best to keep the focus on the ice. But to be honest, the big news of the day, this day, came from off the ice. Big news that could potentially bring sweeping change to the entire sport. A new group calling themselves the World Skating Federation announced its attempt to take over as the world governing body for the sport of figure skating. Ultimately, what they want to do is oust Ottavio Cinquanta in the International Skating Union and rid the sport of all the judging controversies that have more or less robbed figure skating of almost all of its credibility. Their first ever press conference was held today at a downtown hotel here in Washington. Some big names were there: coaches, officials, former skaters, all lending their support and all taking direct aim at the ISU.
We have watched and waited for the ISU to take the necessary steps to cleanse the sport of corruption. We have seen nothing but token gestures and an ISU focused on pitching the world an expensive experimental project that solves none of the systemic issues that keep our sport mired in a sea of politics and behind-the-scenes deal-making.
The obvious objective is to attain IOC recognition, but in order to do that, we realize that we have to build the foundation, and we've already created a constitution. We'll have rules. We want to talk to the members out there, start to receive endorsements.
The worst thing that can come out of this is that we've shown a spotlight. We know we've lit up an area that really needs to be seen, and how bad it is. You know, it's just bad. So the worst thing that can happen is they'll clean it up. They have to respond.
Well, we'll see. That story is still developing. Here are some of the objectives that the WSF wants to bring to the table, and the main one they kept talking about today was zero tolerance for judging corruption. If you are caught cheating or colluding with anybody, no temporary ban, you are gone. They want to create an organization that is for the skaters. They want to give the skaters a voice in decisions that are made regarding the sport. They want to go back to the 6.0 judging scale. They say there's nothing wrong with the system. The problem was with some of the judges who are using the system. Who are the players? Well, you saw a couple of them involved in those clips there. Ron Fenning was supposed to be the acting referee at this competition, but he was relieved of those duties late last week, and now he is the acting president of the WSF, and there's some more names that you can recognize there. And some of the skaters that have thrown their names behind this include Canadians Kurt Browning and Jamie Soleil and David Pelche. And we should tell you that later tonight during our coverage, we will have an exclusive interview with Jamie and David, who were obviously at the center of the biggest controversy this sport has ever seen, and the one that really pushed this sport to the brink. But there's going to be skating as well. Don't worry about that. We told you about the men's short, Emmanuel Sandou and Jeff Buttle representing Canada, and the pairs short program as well. So for more on that, let's take you upstairs. Here's Rod Black and Debbie Wilkes.
Well, thank you, Dave. They are as mad as heck, and they're not going to take it anymore. That's what it sounds like.
Well, and I think that the voices against anonymity and for accountability are just getting louder and more strident, which is a good thing.
And everybody has been talking about fixing the judging system. Let me get that word straight. Repairing the judging system, not fixing. We've heard enough of that word. But yesterday, as we show you the Pair Short program, which is upcoming, it looked like American Idol and the judges there. No one could come to a consensus. There was really some discrepancy among the judges.
And particularly in the technical mark, we were seeing huge ranges in the mark, more than a point, the whole point in some situations, which is completely baffling to me. But under the current interim system, there is no way that anyone, including the referee, can question a judge about a mark.
There was no question coming in. The favorite team, the Chinese world champions, Zhuye Shen and Hongbo Zhao. However, they come into this event hurt.
Yes, they had a terrible injury Saturday during practice. It was an attempted quad throw jump, crashed into the boards, Zhuye injuring both her right knee and right ankle. So, pretty iffy.
Let's take a look at the order of skate here as we show you the Pairs Short program from Washington, D.C. And, of course, we will have the Canadians, Annabelle Langlois, Patrice Arquetto, Zagorska and Shudek, now coached by Canadian Richard Gauthier. Zhang and Zhang from China, LaRiviere Faustino, the Canadian champions, Tadmianina and Marinin, the Russians who beat the Chinese at the Grand Prix final. So lots ahead from the 2003 World Figure Skating Championships on TSN.
Team Canada on ice now at the Worlds, getting ready for their short program. Annabelle Langlois, Patrice Arquette took their first trip to the Worlds a year ago in Nagano, Japan. 10th place showing after a 12th place finish at the Winter Olympic Games. Last year was all about experience. This year it is about improvement. And Patrice finding something on the ice, some debris, and ridding the ice surface of it. That can throw you off a little bit. It hasn't been the best of seasons for Langlois and Arquette. They started off with a bang, but then kind of flatlined, Debbie.
They had some problems, certainly injuries and illness. Annabelle suffering a real problem with a spooky sort of accident with her ankle, but something that has really not had a chance to fully heal. Re-injuring it on occasion, and certainly when a skater's confidence about the health of their body is in question, it can do a lot to what they put down on the ice. They begin their program with a throw triple Salchow. All the top seniors will do triple throws. Oh, picture perfect.
And now time to concentrate on the key element for every team here.
All the elements, at least technically, are worth the same value. However, in the skaters' minds, it's the side-by-side triple jumps that are the most important because they are individual elements. Here they are. Got those two. Side-by-side spins must have a minimum of 5 revolutions on each foot. And a minimum of 8 revolutions total in the pair spin. Beautiful elements placed beautifully to the music. They've got lots of wow factor out there today. Really selling it.
The key word so far, clean.
This team is a team that has excellence in all areas, including the lifts. They cover an enormous amount of ice. The lifts are extremely difficult by virtue of all the position changes. Final element, forward inside depth spiral.
Oh, they're going to be happy with this one.
They've been waiting for that one all season.
Langlois and Arquette.
Annabelle Langlois and Patrice Arquette from Canada.
Even at the national championships, that may have been the biggest dip in the valley. They were the favorites going in to win the Canadian title, and then for them, second place just wasn't good enough.
Canadian title, it all just seemed to get away from them. They were so good during practice early in the week, but unfortunately left it on the practice ice. Not the case here. What a wonderful skate. Jan Ullmark, their coach from Edmonton, welcoming them as they leave the ice. And it began with an exquisite throw triple Salchow. High, fast, wonderful control by Annabelle on the landing. continuing on with real fire right through to the triple toes. Both well done. Good use of knees to control the landing. Lots of pizzazz, too. It was about the program, about really selling it. It gained speed and control as it continued. High up into the lift, a hip lift required this year. And look at all the changes, including very strong dismount in flip position. Great connection between partners. They engaged the audience.
Safe to say the ankle injury now behind them, not even thinking about it anymore, especially in that performance.
Hey, Newfies.
So these marks ranging the first set, the technical set, or the elements, 4.9 to 5.6, wide range of marks there. 4.9 low, 5.6 high, in ascending order. Again, 9 of those marks will count.
Boy, I'd like to know who gave that 4.9. They certainly aren't pair skaters.
4.9 for presentation to 5.6. So Langlois and Arquetto, who trained with Jamie Salé and David Pelletier. And remember, Salé and Pelletier once coached by that man, Ryszard Gauthier, who now is the coach of the Polish champions, Dorota Zagorska and Mariusz Szudek.
Here are Dorota Zagorska and Mariusz Szudek.
They have moved to Montreal, and in the last month have practically undergone a metamorphosis in style.
Well, they came to Ryszard wondering whether there was any point in staying. Could they continue to improve? They are 27 and 30, respectively, Dorota and Mariusz. And suddenly, when they got under Richard's tutelage, they discovered, like in a week, they learned how to do a throw triple loop, and it gave them a whole fresh new approach, new impetus to stay involved. They can be better.
One thing that they are the best at, their lifts.
Now, Ryszard has had to work with programs already designed this year, but you will notice differences in confidence. Their improvement has breathed new life into this team. Like the side-by-side triple toe, still off in timing a little bit on the entry, but both completed. Side-by-side spins, changing center, slight deduction. Footwork into the twist. With real life.
In the past, it always looked like they were out there and technically were so strong, but they didn't seem to be enjoying it.
Part of Ryszard's goal for the team, and what one might argue made Salé and Pelletier so incredible, was the connection that they had on the ice, and that's a goal that he has for the Polish team. The lift, one arm, all the way up, fast, good ice coverage. Again, complicated, flip dismount.
I'm sure that's something Richard didn't have to work with him on. The new and improved Zagorska and Szudek with help from Canadian Richard Gauthier. The plan to move to Montreal so far has paid big dividends.
They will suffer some deduction, probably 0.1 to 0.2 for the problem in the side-by-side spins, but what a great skate.
Yeah, good night of skating so far here. The short program for the pairs at the Worlds will continue after this. I guess it doesn't matter, no matter how many years you've had in a sport or what you've done, even though it may seem commonplace or like there's nothing new again. Suddenly, these very experienced skaters must feel very fresh.
Well, particularly when you consider that they're doing moves they've never been able to do before. They had to rely on the throw double axel. And now, in being able to do the throw triple loop, it has increased their repertoire and the difficulty. Of course, they have always been outstanding in the area of lifts. Tremendously athletic, very sure, and very solid.
Check their marks in relation to the Canadians. Stronger marks, 5'4" to 5'6". Zagorska and Shudek, with the help of Richard Gauthier, are contenders here for the podium. Remember, they won a bronze medal a few years ago at the Worlds. They might be in line for a podium finish here.
Currently, Dorota Zagorska and
With Annabelle Langlois and Patrice Arquette, you guys are obviously thrilled the way things went tonight. Your best short program, you said, since Grand Prix final, maybe even the best one of the season.
Pretty much, yeah. It was, since Grand Prix final, we've been pretty dead on, and this short was as good or better as Grand Prix final. We're really pleased with it. You know, our two last performances of the season have been stronger and consistent, and that's the goal.
You've had a tough season battling injury, and you are sick a little bit. You had a touch of the flu in Canadians in Saskatoon. How much of a setback was that at Canadians for you to rebuild to this stage, Patrice?
I think the Canadians just made us see that we're not like as good as all year. Like sometimes we make mistake, and we went back to home and we went step by step and did one program after the other, and we correct all the things that we had to correct, and it went on. Like we did for Continent, it went well. We went into Grand Prix final, it went better, so we just went on and on and on higher, so that's how we went.
I know you've got a lot of people cheering for you in the stands, a lot of family members, people who've supported you, including Jamie and David are going to try to make it for the free skate. What would that mean?
That'd be great. You know, they've helped us so much over the summer, and, you know, whenever they're in Edmonton, they've been great inspirations for us, and they were kind of the reason we moved to Edmonton too, well, them and Jan, and I mean, it's going to be fun to see them and have them around.
Well, it should be a very fun night. We'll look forward to it. Best of luck in the free skate.
Thank you very much.
Good start for Annabelle and Patrice. Looking forward to seeing Saleh and Pelche. Would like to see them skating out there, mind you. They forge on with their professional careers, and everybody talking about the Chinese team, of course, defending world champions Zhuhai Shen and Hongbo Zhao, who have had a sudden injury this week. They're still to skate here, but there are two other strong Chinese teams, including this one, Debbie.
Wonderful young team, 17 and 18 years of age, not related, Dan Zhang and Hao Zhang. 9th at last year's World Championships, 11th at the Olympic Games. Beginning with throw triple Salchow. Good start.
Oh, yes.
A rather cautious entry to the throw triple loop. I'm having trouble with my loops. Triple toes. Rather far apart on the side-by-side spins. Very quick rotation in the lift, but a lot of snow going up. as it turned. Loss of speed. Death spiral, the man must be in a pivot position. That's with his left toe pick in the ice behind him for at least one revolution. The longer the death spiral, the better the element. Their best element, the twist.
Wasn't too long ago that China had 0 pairs teams competing at the Worlds. Now they have 3 teams here who could be in the top 10. That nation has made great strides in the world of figure skating. Zhang and Zhang. China will still see Shen and Zhao, and Canada's other team, the Riviere Faustino, still ahead from the Worlds.
The elements, beginning with the throw triple Salchow. There's a real stylistic point with all of the Chinese teams. It's all about strength, but the women are able to maintain a beautiful position in the air, great control. But I love the twist the best. She splits with a very even split. That's something the judges are looking for. Extremely high, very slow rotation.
The marks, please, for
accentuating the height of that wonderful element.
The range of marks is between
well, look at the marks here, and you know, I know they're trying to repair the damage done from Salt Lake City with this interim skating system, but a difference from 4.7 to 5.7 is inexcusable. It's ridiculous.
Jacinthe Lariviere and
now Jacinthe Lariviere and Lenny Faustino. Let's see what the judges do. I can't recall seeing a range of marks from a top 10 team going from 4.7 to 5.7 like the Chinese team just got. And that really is curious.
It certainly is curious to everybody. It's not a particularly new system. It's the same OBO 1-by-1 system finding the results, but what is different is the anonymity of the judges. We need event review meetings, and certainly with technical marks that have such a broad range, either the judges are incompetent or something's afoot.
And now the second team from Canada, the Canadian champions, with Langlois and Arquette currently in second place, trying to put one down here.
Nice start. Throw triple Salchow with pizzazz. Both Canadian teams extremely well-rounded. Lenny and Jazz also beautiful lifters. But here's the tough one. Side-by-side triple toes.
Need them.
Trouble with the side-by-side spins as well. That's 2 major deductions. has not really had what I would call a perfectly clean short all season. Fabulous lift, complicated, good positions, full coverage of the ice. Love the saucy attitude in the choreography. Tough to pull off when you know you've made some major mistakes.
And those major mistakes, both side by side, the jumps and the spins, and there will be big deductions.
I would think that the side-by-side spin was a problem because Jazz was still worried about having faltered so badly in the jump.
Lenny and Jazz, Faustino Lariviere of Canada. More to come from the pairs short program in Washington, D.C. The 2003 Worlds will continue. So, Lariviere Faustino, Canadian champions, 8th at the Worlds last year in Nagano. But this will set them back here.
Not a great start, although the program began very well with an exquisite throw triple Salchow. I love the detail of the shoulder movement by Jazz on the landing, setting up a very nice choreographic interpretation. But the real problems began here with the setup, even for the side-by-side triple toe. Neither skater really doing it well. Jazz, of course, falling right out of it. One of the highlights of the program, however, a beautiful lift with tremendous speed going in. Difficult entry. This team always creates real difficulty with original movements, original positions, and always with wonderful ice coverage, very clean skating.
Now, there will be no disputing these marks because they're going to be low, but again, we'll have to watch this marking system, and we've talked about it all season, this interim system.
When you look at here, the required elements, even 4-0 to 4-9.
4-0 to 4-9. It's how can those marks be in that range?
Well, I talked earlier about the event review meetings. It used to be when there were any kind of anomalies like this, the referee would go after the event and ask every judge, what's with that? And here that's not an option. I mean, they do have some kind of a review meeting, but without anyone knowing, including the referee and including the judges, whether their mark was used. There's no way of relating the low marks to any particular judge. No accountability.
There isn't. They're trying to hide the judges' nationalities behind this system, and there still are flaws. We'll see what happens now with Tatiana Topmianina and Maxim Marinin coming off a very impressive win over the Chinese world champions at the Grand Prix final, so they're full of momentum here.
And in the entire pair event, this is one of my most favorite programs. I think it suits them so beautifully. Classical music by Grieg. Very refined style, somewhat aloof in its presentation. Purity of edge. Setting up the whole idea with a beautiful spiral sequence to begin. Triple loop next. And in time with the music. And such confidence in the side-by-side triple toes. everything matching right down to the position of the hands. Effortless speed. Adequate twist. Not the height and ease of some we have seen. And a fairly simple hip lift.
But a team riding a very big wave coming into this World Championship. You said the word confidence. They won the silver medal last year. They were kind of the rookies of the year, following in the skate steps of Berezhnaya and Sigerlitse. Who would have thought that the Russians would have had a team like this right behind Berezhnaya Sigerlitse, a team that potentially could win a world title here?
Waiting in the wings. They've learned their lessons well, although, as I mentioned in the twist, they don't perhaps have the excitement and height. It's a timing issue for a pair. Also, they're fairly well matched. Some of the Chinese teams have that athleticism that is not characteristic of this team. They still do what is required and excel in the individual skating. That's what makes it work for them. This is the twist. Goes in with good speed, but it does not have the height. I think the skaters are concentrating more on getting the turn done, and with the split prior to the revolution, it looked a little labored. Forward inside death spiral, beautiful, however, very low position by Maxime, and held for a very long time without losing speed. A beautiful way to end the program.
Well, one thing they also have going for them is not only that confidence, but maybe a little intimidation too. They now know that they have beaten the Chinese team at their own game at the Grand Prix final, and that's one thing when you finally get the chance, because that Chinese team was undefeated all season long since they won the world title. There is a former world champion, Artur Dmitriev, two-time Olympic champion with different partners, one of the strongest men's pairs skater that I think maybe in skating history.
And now giving a lot back to the sport, doing a fair amount of coaching.
But you wonder too if maybe this team is in the kitchen of the Chinese team, and they're starting to think, well, maybe we aren't unbeatable. Tamianina and Marinin will be in first place. Langlois and Arquetto will move down a notch into third. The Polish team will move into second. 5'7" to 5'8". No big range there. Required elements marks. The judges in full agreement. And presentation will be strong. 5'8" and 5'9". Could this team become a world championship team? What a skate. Chinese still ahead. Leaders right now, the Russians, Tamianina and Marinin. Keep in mind the Chinese world champions, Shen and Zhao, still to skate. Polish team, Zagorska, Shudik second. Langlois and Arquetto, that is huge news right now. They are in third place in this short program. And now the United States champions, Tiffany Scott, Philip Dulabon. This team finished just ahead of the Riviere and Faustino at last year's Worlds in 7th place.
Skaters that jump in reverse direction. Unusual to find a well-matched team that both jump in reverse direction. Philip, big trouble on the triple toe.
watching this team in warm-up. They tried many times to complete the throw triple Salchow, didn't get it once. Sign of a good competitor. Tiffany came back with a solid one in the program.
Always special when you get to skate in front of your home country fans, but for a couple of skaters this week, Philip and also Michael Weiss, this is even more special because this is their hometown, their home state. That was nice.
Champions crowned this year at U.S. Nationals, and there were several teams that could have risen to the occasion. Since Tiffany and Philip won it, their skating has improved tremendously. Amazing what a little title will do.
But they'll have a couple of deductions side by sides. Boy, they are the game breakers, aren't they?
He will lose probably 0.2 on the side-by-side triple toe. Looked like he just got anxious. As soon as you become self-conscious about a particular element and start to overthink it, suddenly all of the natural feel that you might have for an element in practice kind of goes out the window. You start trying to muscle through it. You start using words like, what if I don't land this? And as soon as you open the door to doubt, your skating becomes tentative. And here's where it started with the side-by-side setup, taking a lot of time in preparation. Jump seemed to tilt back. He certainly was not over his feet, well balanced on the landing. But the side-by-side spins were beautiful, perfectly synchronized, skated very closely together. The timing of the little hop was also right on. You can see them talking and communicating throughout that element. And although skaters will practice for hours in counting the number of revolutions in a spin, normally you will see pair skaters doing spins somewhat more slowly so that you can be sure of staying synchronized.
Well, let's see how synchronized the judges are here. Again, controversy still hanging around this sport like a bad rash from Salt Lake City and Saleh and Pelche and Berezhnaya and Sigerlitze, and everyone thought that there was going to be some recovery. The recovery has been slow and it has been painful.
And it continues that way. We have serious suspicions about every move the ISU makes, and this is something that I think is important for them to address. There may be wonderful things being done, but unfortunately, the way it's being presented has not created any kind of credibility within the system. We tend not to believe anything we see.
And a U.S. referee, Ron Fenning, who helped expose that scandal in Salt Lake City. Remember, last year, he resigned from the ISU Technical Committee before this championship. No wonder. Here's Dave.
8th place.
With Jacinthe Lariviere and Lenny Faustino, and this is one of those tough nights where we've got to talk about skate that I think you'd like to have back. What happened out there, Jess?
It just happened so quick. I'm not quite sure. I was really excited to skate tonight, and we had a great practice this morning, and everything felt fine. Lenny was telling me that I wasn't aggressive enough. Maybe I wasn't, but everything felt really good, so might have been a little bit uptight. I can't really figure it out right now.
Yeah, it's a tough question, and it's certainly one tough to answer right here. You have any thoughts on what went on there tonight, Lenny?
You know, I don't know. I felt pretty good. I skated all right. I don't know. I wasn't...
You come into these Worlds as Canadian champions. I'm wondering if, you know, all the talk about living up to the great pairs reputation, does that enter into the equation at all?
No, because we're just trying to be us. We're trying to set our own, have our own time. And yeah, the legacy is great in Canadian pairs, and we got another great Canadian pair here too. Yeah, I'd like to start a legacy of our own, but it takes one step at a time. This was one of those steps backwards, I guess. But.
Well, there's another step to be made, and it's the free skate, and we wish you the best of luck then.
Thank you.
High Center, home of the Wizards and Michael Jordan, and this whole week home to the World Figure Skating Championships. Final moments for the warm-up for the pairs short program. Only a couple of teams left who could knock Langlois and Arquette down a couple of notches. That is a big story here tonight for the Canadian team, and this is the other story. That leg, the right leg of Joëa Chen, one half of the World Championship team. You see the knee brace, and the ankle is really the problem.
Last Saturday during a practice, she took a terrible fall on an attempted quad throw, crashed into the boards, obviously in serious pain.
She just hit our camera too.
And she has been sort of on a moment-by-moment status. We understand she got some kind of injection prior to the warm-up and has had a brilliant warm-up. They are first to skate.
So here they are, and they are also coming off a loss at the Grand Prix final. There is one of the great pioneers in Chinese skating, the first world champion for China, Liu Chen, who's watching. And this team became world champions last year in Nagano. Skated brilliantly. But now they are coming off their first loss to Tahtmaianina and Marinin. They did not skate well. They had some problems with jet lag when they went to the Grand Prix final in St. Petersburg. Now they have this problem with Joëa's ankle. We'll see how they respond.
Being an athlete is never an easy road. This short program choreographed by the great Russian coach Tatiana Tarasova. The first element, side-by-side, triple toe loops. Tremendous speed going in. Clean, clean. But this is the hard element. Throw triple loop. It's her right foot that is the takeoff and landing.
No problem.
Very difficult.
Oh my, their weakest element. We talked about the spins.
And it's a difficult element, not just because they don't practice very much, but they chose to do a fly in the middle on the change from one foot to the next. Program began with such vibrancy and such vitality, but that major error in the side-by-side spin, seems like the couple's just run out of gas. The last element, another spin element, the pair combination spin.
For most teams, it's the side-by-side jumps that are so costly if they don't land them. For this team, it's the spins. And now with the deductions, remember the Russian team that beat them at the Grand Prix final had very high marks here. And if it's judged correctly, technically, you would think this team is now second.
I would say at least, because there have been several clean performances. Now, nobody quite has the excitement and daring, speed and abandon that this team has, but I would say this was not their game tonight.
World champions don't have such obvious mistakes on a spin as this team.
No, and I mean, that was a really costly one. That wasn't just a loss of rotation. That was a complete mess. They lost their concentration. There was no position. It was, you know, for a moment, almost standing still.
Yet everything else, all their other tricks, all their other elements, are near flawless.
Well, and isn't it interesting and ironic even that such concern with Shue's ankle, beginning with the triple toe, which was done so beautifully, a slight lean by Hongbo in the air, then going on to that amazing throw triple loop. But here, look what happened. Beautiful camel spins to begin. They do a fly over. Hongbo completely loses balance, carving over on the right back outside edge. And boy, for 5 seconds or so, they seem to be kind of lost.
They are not ready for prime time right now. The last 2 events, they were unbeatable, untouchable all season. And something, whether it's injury or other factors over the last few weeks, last couple of months, have shown that they aren't so invincible.
Life on the road is very tough. They have a huge schedule. They were trying to compete as much as possible, of course, with the 4 continents in Beijing. They were competing in that as well. A huge schedule that I think takes its toll.
Again, Tomianina and Marinin, their marks were better than this for the elements, 5.4 to 5.7. So the presentation marks will likely be higher, and this will determine their placing, likely right to the free skate, and they will be in second place.
Remember that any of the teams finishing in the top 3 here in the short program with a win in the free skate can win it all.
The world champions will be second heading to that free skate.
Representing Russia, Hero Julia Obertus and Alexei Sokolov.
The third-ranked team in Russia, Yulia Obertas and Alexei Sokolov. Right now, Russia leads. China is in second place. Poland in third, and Canada, Langlois and Arquetto, in fourth. And you know that Canadian team is watching the next 2 Russian teams to see if they deliver, and if they don't, Langlois and Arquetto could be in great shape for the free skate.
Side-by-side triple toes done in an unusual pattern. Pair skaters generally do those jumps end to end. The stylistic point, obviously this team finds them more consistent on a curve. The Russian dynasty in pair skating began back in 1964 with the Protopopovs. And I must say, Yulia looks very much like Ludmila. Same kind of balletic tone, balletic attitude. Worked for them. Into the sit spin, you'll see an increase in speed as the skater's body becomes more compact. hip lift. Yulia providing the only change in leg position.
Yulia was a former world junior champion 2 times. She skated for Ukraine with Dmitry Palamarchuk.
Nice little choreographic nugget in that pair spin. Bit of originality.
Team's got some sizzle. And they were fairly clean. Where will the judges place them? So Obertas and Sokolov at the Worlds, and Petrova and Tikhonov are next. They are former world champions getting ready to go at the MCI Center in Washington. Still one team to come tonight here in the pair short program. Russia leads Topmianina and Marinin. Shannon Zhao, a surprising second. Zagorska, Shudek, Langlois and Arquetto are fourth. Will be fifth momentarily, you would think, because the marks will be pretty strong here for Obertas and Sokolov, who should be able to be at least in the top 4, perhaps in 3rd place right now.
They did have a very good skate. They are charming and engaging on the ice.
5-3 and 5-7. The marks, please, for presentation.
5-3 to 5-7. Presentation marks.
With such wide variety in marks for all non-Russian skaters, makes me wonder if there isn't a huge Russian influence on that panel.
The ordinals, again, randomly chosen, and someone putting this team 8th. It makes you wonder what their top 7 are. 3rd right now for Obertas and Sokolov, and one team to skate, also from Russia, world champions 3 years ago in Nice, France.
Maria Petrova and Alexei Tikhonov.
And a very consistent team. Their strongest element, their elements.
They don't have a lot of the what you've been calling sizzle of Obertas and Sokolov, but they do get the job done. A very sometimes criticized for being somewhat robotic in their movement, but it was their consistency that brought them the world title back in Nice. They've been struggling with it a little bit in the last couple of years, but this season have been incredibly strong in most of their performances throughout the Grand Prix circuit and Grand Prix season. Taking their time after their name has been called. Often a skater will use this time to settle their nerves, to imagine the worst and put it out of their mind. Then it's down to business. Two strong elements to start. Getting the curve set for the throw triple Salchow. Judges are watching during the lift for ice coverage, confidence of the rotation. This is a big rink to fill. Fans in the audience, even on the topmost row, should feel the speed and energy. And I just think this program tonight is quite slow.
But clean.
Clean, but lacking energy. No real spark.
Again, the judge's decision will have a huge factor on what happens with Langlois and Arquetto and where they will be heading to the free skate. Right now, it looks like Joao Shen and Hongo Zhao may have got the biggest break of the night based on their deduction. A lot of clean programs, but Shen and Zhao look like they'll probably stay in second place. The Russian teams were all clean.
Yeah, I'd have keep Shen and Zhao second on the basis of all of the tremendous skating in between. The elements that they did complete were absolutely breathtaking. I found for Petrova and Tikhonov, they got the job done. They did the 8 required elements, but it just didn't sparkle. It had very deliberate and kind of labored movement throughout the program. It just doesn't come to life. They don't pull the audience into the performance.
Well, even when they won their world championship back in Nice, remember, they didn't win it by wowing everybody. They won it by being very consistent where everybody else fell apart, including Jamie Salé and David Pelletier. They kind of backed into it. And remember, Berezhnaya and Sigerlitze didn't compete that year because of that positive
drug infraction.
And here are the past world champions, Shen and Zhao last year, Salé Pelletier the year before, Petrova Tikhonov in 2000.
Well, what made it for Petrova Tikhonov was the fact that they were able to come in and just do every program, do it well, nothing totally sensational.
Sometimes that's good enough.
But consistency is the name of the game. And certainly if you have to decide between showbiz and getting the tricks done, in skating, you got to do the tricks.
It also makes it a lot easier for the judges when everyone else doesn't deliver and the team comes and skates clean. That's when you don't have those controversies like we had at Salt Lake City, or other controversies when teams are very close and you're judging style versus technique.
Well, and I almost think that in pair skating these days, the skill levels have become so incredibly high that in many respects, I think they should up the ante and increase the difficulty in the short program because it's getting more and more difficult to separate teams.
Again, a huge separation, though, in the judges' ordinals from 2 to 5 here. Petrova Tikhonov will be in 3rd place heading into the free skate. Looking for a medal here again at the Worlds. Over to Sokolov moving to 4th. And the big story for Canada, Langlois and Arquetto, who are looking really for a top 10 finish, maybe at best. They have to kind of rejig what their mission here is, because now they could potentially make it to the podium, but certainly a top 5 is within their grasp.
And this is the kind of boost that any team needs. When you skate well, you get the momentum moving. And even for some of the teams in the rest of the field, Zhang and Zhang, Pang and Tong from China, booted out of the top 5 by Canadians.
LaRiviere and Faustino disappointing with their 15th. They'll try to bounce back from that. Big story, though, the Chinese champions, the world champions, will have to play catch-up, come from behind to make it 2 in a row at the Worlds, because Tatmianina and Marinin continue to ride the wave from the Grand Prix final. They lead.
And all of those involved.
And earlier today in Washington, big news from the skating world, a sport known for its revolutions, perhaps undergoing a revolution. A brand new skating federation announced, ostensibly to ouster the International Skating Union, featuring some very prominent people. We will have that story with Debbie Wilkes coming up next.
The Washington Monument here in Washington, D.C., site of the 2003 World Figure Skating Championships. On TSN, we still have the men's short program and the dance compulsories Still to come, but we should tell you, we want to turn our attention back to the big news story of the day. And rumors started swirling late yesterday that there was a big announcement coming today, something about the new world order as it relates to figure skating. And lo and behold, at noon Eastern time, we all heard about the new World Skating Federation. Debbie Wilkes has the details.
Following the Olympic judging scandal in Salt Lake City, the International Skating Union was forced to accept the fact that the sport of figure skating is in crisis. Today in Washington at the World Championships, they faced another challenge. This one from a newly formed organization called the World Skating Federation, an organization whose objectives have been defined by some of the sport's most celebrated and decorated coaches, officials, and athletes.
Today marks an important milestone for the sport of figure skating, a time when the key stakeholders of the sport are finally ready and willing to stand up for real change in the sport. It is my pleasure, therefore, to announce the formation of the World Skating Federation, an athlete-focused world governing body of the sport.
9 months ago, after the International Skating Union Congress in Kyoto, Japan, ISU referee Ron Fenning and Judge John Jackson decided that action must be taken against the ISU.
The World Skating Federation began as an attempt to provide an alternative. What we were seeing is a culture of corruption in the ISU run by people who don't understand figure skating. I think that what happened at the Olympic Games was a terrible insult to all the athletes that participate.
The first goal of the World Skating Federation is to gain IOC recognition. Today, a letter was sent to IOC President Jacques Roga explaining the WSF's objectives.
I think when we can provide the IOC with a sufficient number of members that are endorsing the World Skating Federation and are certainly the athletes. If you don't have athletes, you won't have their endorsement, and that we proved that we're a viable organization.
WSF showed that it has athlete support with a video presentation and with skaters in attendance.
I'm just here to endorse the philosophies, the concepts. I'm here to say that, I believe that figure skating should be its own entity. I'm here to say that I really think there should be integrity in judging and honesty.
Although no Canadians were represented at the press conference, they have been involved in the WSF planning process, although Skate Canada has other priorities here in Washington.
We will look at anything, and we will do that after the event, because for us, we have to be here to support our skaters, and that's the #1 job for us this week.
The ISU has been focusing on developing a new judging system. Perhaps now their focus will have to shift.
Needless to say, we tried to get some reaction out of the ISU president, Ottavio Cinquanta. No comment today, although he has agreed to sit down with us tomorrow, and we'll have that one-on-one interview during Wednesday night's coverage. But coming up next after the break, Rod Black will sit down with these two, David Pelche, Jamie Salé. Their thoughts next when we come back to the Worlds in Washington.
The skating world was startled by an announcement. Several judges, coaches, and prominent skaters announcing the formation of the World Skating Federation, ostensibly to take the lead from the International Skating Union. Many of these people feeling that the ISU has not done enough to recover from the damage done from the Salt Lake City scandal from over a year ago. And joining us on the line now from Jacksonville, Florida, where they are on tour, Jamie Salé and David Pelche. Hello to both of you.
Hi, everyone.
Hi. Well, this World Skating Federation, I know that you two both endorse it. Tell us about the formation, the birth of this, and what this federation intends to do.
Well, from Jamie and my point of view, we were approached, I'd say 3 weeks ago, to kind of back up and be informed about this federation that was about to be formed. Why we were interested in is very simple. We feel as athletes that we have absolutely no power in the decision that's been made in the past and since the Olympics. With the World Skating Federation, athletes will have an input, which, it's very attractive to us. A lot of people ask us all the time, are you proud of that you were part of changes since the Olympics? And we basically have nothing to say, because nobody called us to say, what do you think we should do now? And now I think with the federation, that's what they want to do.
The International Skating Union since the scandal, has said that it is working hard to try to change the current judging system, some of the improprieties. Jamie, a lot of people within skating feeling that not enough has been done, and in fact, one of the reasons that this has started is because they feel that the status quo is not good enough.
Well, David and I have been saying in a lot of our interviews, the problem with the situation that we have right now is the people that are involved in it. And the system itself wasn't necessarily the thing that was wrong. It's the people that have corrupted the system are still there. And that's got to change, whether it's, you know, obviously like we're trying to have some involvement with the skaters and the coaches and other judges. And the people who have tried to help our sport are not there. And that's what's really, really weird for all of us skaters who are either still skating or retired or turned professional, and we're sitting back going like, what's happening to our sport? It's very sad.
When you talk about people, is the main name mentioned Ottavio Cinquanta, the president of the International Skating Union?
Well, we don't want to point fingers. Whoops. But you know, it's hard to say. Everything happens behind closed doors.
Exactly.
And the inquiry happens behind closed doors. Now the judging is behind closed doors. Nothing is out there. As skaters, we put ourselves out there. When you fall on the ice, you get your marks, and you get, you know, you are accountable for what you do on the ice. And the judges should be accountable for what they do. And as a skater, I wouldn't feel comfortable not knowing what's going on, what my marks. I mean, pick one, or just put the marks in the computer, mishmash that together, and send my result by the mail. You know, it's the computer now decides where you're going to end up, and I don't think that's right.
Well, and this judging system right now, a lot of people in the press conference today talked about keeping the system that was in place, but getting rid of the corruption, getting rid of the judges, and making sure that they are accountable. Is that possible even with the World Skating Federation?
There's a lot of work to do, but that doesn't mean, you know, when you ask me, is it possible? Everything is possible. How to do it? I mean, the federation is just starting now. It's going to take time. It's going to take a lot of hard decisions. It's going to take a lot of strong people to put that in place. It is possible, but if it's hard, does that mean we should sit there and let what's been happening now just keep on going and keep happening? No, we have to do something, and this is why it's so exciting that the federation is getting in place.
You don't have to do anything as pro skaters now, but do you guys both feel a responsibility to help change the direction of the sport?
Well, obviously, Rod, we have we'll still have friends that are competing there with, that you guys are all watching right now, and other friends that are still competing, and we want the best for them, but it's our sport. I mean, we love figure skating, and we don't want, you know, to see this fall apart, and we're starting to see that. And the hardest thing for us, Rod, is the fact that people come up to us, whether we're in Florida or we're in California, and say, well, why should I put my daughter or my son in figure skating if this is what's going on now? I mean, that's really hard to take sometimes, and I think that we're doing this for it's a very positive thing that we're all trying to do. It's not to you know, point fingers at anyone specifically. It's to make the figure skating sport better.
From talking to the Scott Hamiltons and Kurt Brownings and the Katarina Vitz and everybody else involved, Todd Eldridge, the prominent names, is there a worry, though, that many of these skaters are from nations that, you know, have been victimized perhaps by an Eastern Bloc, and we have not heard from the Russians, some of the European countries? Is there a danger that we might be dividing the skating world into two unions?
I think it's already divided anyway. You know, can we make the situation worse by doing that? I don't think so. You know, I think if you ask Elena and Anton, they're probably not happy about what's going on right now either in the world of skating. They were victims, and I say that, I mean, I don't want to see myself as a victim, but they were involved into a scandal where I'm sure they didn't want to be there. So I don't think we're separating skaters, and I think from all the skaters that's been backing up, and we've been talking about it, everybody seems to be very excited.
Wouldn't you guys like to talk about skating for once, though, instead of all of this? I don't think since you got back from Salt Lake City, even though people celebrated your gold medal, the talk has always been about that scandal.
Yeah, it's very sad, and that's why things need to change, and that's why this federation is very exciting. Nothing has been happening. Nobody will, I say, come to me and say, it's great that the changes that they made. I mean, I really feel comfortable now. I mean, we're not that naive. And you know, what can I say? I'm very excited about this. That's all I can say right now, basically.
Well, I think a lot of people probably echo your sentiment. Hopefully it will turn things around, because there still are obviously some discrepancies within the current judging system. So Jamie and David, thank you for joining us, and I know you're headed to Washington. I guess we'll see you tomorrow?
Yeah, you bet. We're so excited.
All right.
Go Canada. Go Canadian team. We're going to see you all there. Thank you.
All right, and Jamie Salé and David Pelletier will be in Washington tomorrow, and we'll be back to Washington right after this. The men's short program coming up from the 2003 Worlds.